Yeah.
So how is it? with,
You, yeah, I'm connected to
Just listening, but.
That makes sense.
That's hot if
Congrats.
Connected to lights. That's why you also like the heat, is because your room is Mars.
I was gonna say.
Okay.
It's like a lizard thing. I feel like I'm cold-blooded sometimes.
Oh, the front.
That's always cold.
Yeah, well, that's because you're born when the season is going into the cold, right?
The other one was too, right?
Yeah, I was born in the winter.
That's gonna be nice.
Yeah.
I could talk.
Well, it's like, I just like, yeah, it's like bass. That's why when you said Seattle, I was like,
Because so you got one in escrow.
I was like, oh, this is definitely my vibe.
Yeah,
I was always
So
super sad when I go to the beach and it was overcast.
It's like,
Because we
So
were
are you
just
going after like, are you working like with your dad on most of them?
half an hour, you get there. And it's that's okay, but we'd stay there. Yeah, so.
it's still beautiful, right? It's not,
Yeah, I'm just doing,
I feel like every time
I have an assistant, he just sends me like these apps.
feel, I need to start going.
Exfoliate.
Yes.
Very sexy. But yeah.
That was my summer camp when I was 13. Like, me and 3 friends would go to the beach all summer.
Get there like on the bus.
Yeah,
Like 5 to 10K off. We would just send that way.
Yeah.
$2 and we'd be gone.
Just the grind. Just get.
And of course, my kids, they
Time.
13, you would never let them get on the bus.
Well, I got on the bus when I first got here because I just like, hey, East Coast vibe. I'm like taking
I work
over
with
the
a
bus.
lady, her name's Belle.
You know, taking the bus.
She gets.
And then it just wasn't the same vibe because in New York, when you ride the train or the bus,
And my assistant.
you can actually
I make
get
phone calls.
on and see people that give you that look like,
I
if
just
you
booked the
goes down, I got you.
conference.
Here, we don't do that. And so the last time I took, it was supposed to be John's. And it was crazy stuff going on. And if she and I looked at that,
It feels like, we're active that way. Otherwise, it's like it drifts. If I don't do that at least a couple days a week, then I feel like I'm not even in business.
Not here in town because
here we
Like
don't
2
have.
months later, if we don't have another one, it's like, what am I?
we're not on public
So like, if
transport.
there's active communication, that helps for sure.
JJ,
I
can
don't
you?
think people have community going on here like that.
No.
Because when I go places,
They're easy.
I'm like, have people like, do you see this person?
Understand.
And they're just like.
No, it's ignore it. It's like, like to ignore it here versus.
It's crazy, but.
I stare though sometimes. I try not to, but like.
Goes on.
You're like.
It's like.
These
Yeah.
I say people.
Yeah, it's teaching.
Yeah, I'll see.
Like in my yard, there was a guy who got
There are a lot of homes like
at our stop and there was all these people around him like trying to help him. And he was like, he's not going to coffee, like I need to help him. I was like, oh, right.
I can leave. It's just one more.
Yeah, it is so big. It's usually I was like, stab it down here. I'm like, your kidneys, maybe? Whatever other organs are down.
Yeah.
You're believing. And we fought with someone and you're scared to get in trouble, but is hole in stomach.
That's crazy what you're saying about San Fran, because it's such a beautiful city. I would see why people want to live there. But at the same time, to pay all that money, that's crazy.
You're also in like the peak earthquake part of it.
Because when you're there, you're paranoid. You're like,
Yeah.
if I drive over this bridge, is it gonna fall? What's gonna happen?
It's like peak earthquake section, the Marina District, which is like highly desirable, which is fine. You have street parking only, which is crazy. I've seen a
And is it
couple.
on like a hill or something?
It didn't look like it. It was huge. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, had tons of floor space, and it actually did have a dishwasher and a washer and dryer because that's never standard, which I've never understood the washer dryer thing. Cause like what? Who wants to in 2024 have to go to a shared laundry room or a laundromat when I'm paying over
Absolutely.
$2,000+ a month? I should have a washer and dryer.
Right,
No
right.
parking too.
No, so yeah, street,
Dryer.
it had a washer and dryer and a dishwasher, but that's like not standard, especially in like the older
Yeah.
properties.
Right, right.
Um,
So they're usually not renovated, is what you're saying.
they're usually older, but some people take care of them and you can have like a pretty like 1950s through or like through to like the 1980s, like a cute kitchen and bathroom that's vintage and
That gives you kind of like a Haight-Ashbury beat.
yeah, but kind of like they took care of it. And so it may be like old school tiles and you need like a bright colored bathroom, like crazy colors, but it's like, but it's clean and it's nice. I like the older stuff, maybe not a rental, because, you know, however many people have been in it, how
Like
like
a
I
triple B types.
but like in a house, if someone took good care of like a fifties bathroom, like I think that. Maybe like reglaze some stuff, so it's fresh, but not change it. But it had like, it's the worst half remodel of a kitchen too. They put in like 2000 cabinets, but they left like this original like brown granite. And I was like, what is this?
So it
And
just
it's
looks
so
dirty
ugly.
and ugly, yeah.
It didn't look dirty, it just looked really hideous.
What did we
And
do?
it's cheaply done in the sense, I think probably does.
Okay.
Yeah. But people have kept it okay, so they were like, it's fine. In the bathroom, it was a nightmare. I was like, this is insane.
Is it as bad as they say, you know, the homelessness and all that stuff?
It is in certain areas, but you have to. What I know about LA versus San Francisco is it's like LA, because it's so freaking huge, you kind of see homelessness everywhere. And in San Francisco, it's in select
Okay,
locations,
gotcha.
and it's not as,
Traded.
yeah, it's not as widespread, but the city's also built different. So like when we go, you know, the places to go to.
Right, to avoid.
They're dangerous and it's not kind of.
Cause here you get apocalyptic, you're like.
Yeah, but it's like, you just know what.
Turn down one street and.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's like, just go to the right neighborhood and
What's going
it's gonna
on?
be good.
You know.
The drug
And I'm
situation.
from there, so it's like, yeah, it's pockets and it's like, there's areas I've literally never gone to, one, because it's never really been safe, and also like. There's no reason to go there. There's no reason to go there, and then it's like 30, whatever.
But you know, that happened to my friend and I, we were in downtown LA, just like getting sushi, we went down one street, but like, oh, it looks like Sesame Street. And then we went around the corner and we were like, oh shit, it was so bad. Just going around the corner, we forgot where we were, we got lost, even though the hotel was like right there. We were just like, what is going on? It was scary. It's like zombies coming out.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I'm barely in it, but I really like she did,
Where's the film crew, right?
It's like, what?
So I like that she came from.
What
real estate, because they also do,
Like, are you getting paid off of this?
Small
Like,
business.
That makes me curious.
I was like, that's one nice here, so you could.
know how bad.
It was sweet,
Right?
really
Yeah.
friendly. and
When I grew up, you rarely see a homeless person.
I'm not from
Now
here.
it's everywhere.
Like, I don't have a big
So they took
sphere.
them all from New York and the East Coast. They said, go over there where it's full. One-way tickets.
But not expecting a sphere to be.
I mean, it's what, in New York, in some cities, you freeze if you don't go in.
It's okay, we didn't have homeless.
And part of the
They used to live on the street. Yeah.
We didn't have homeless people, we had to read a lot of.
ideas for events and they want to like.
Yeah, that's what happened.
I was.
Break up with the governor.
Having a big truck for
But that was
someone who
decades ago.
Just
But it
Having a-
progressively got
time on search.
before they would like institutionalize people. So
like it.
Is that a pre? Well, you know, if.
Yeah, and I've got it, it was referred to me too.
I lived on the street, under a bridge, and freeway.
Managing.
I would be crazy too.
Yeah.
I try to have empathy in that way.
Good job.
Don't forget, there's a $42,000 fine for calling someone on the do not call list. Shared folder. If you guys remember, I shared a folder with you guys. If you remember, it's on sync.com. So if you don't have access to my shared folder, just let me know. But through sync.com, there is a folder there called rules, regulations, and do not call. If you go into that folder, I have downloaded the CAR benefits guide. I have here the 2024 code of ethics. I have here the law MLS rules and regulations. Thank you. But there's also here Keller Williams do not call instruction. If you guys want to follow the instructions here, you can subscribe to our office's do not call regulations. So we subscribe to it. If you want access to it, this is how to do it. The instructions are in my shared folder under regulations. And just showing you where that is. Don't want anyone getting $32,000 fine. That would be best. Okay.
That's gonna be a big loan.
Now,
I'll make it here.
my classes last week were on the purchase agreement.
I don't even think that exists.
You need to know you need to go to purchase agreement in order to counter, right? Doesn't make sense. So we spent a lot of time last week doing the RPA. If you want to go back and review those classes, you can go to KWBH Virtual. And you can, when you're at the KWBH Virtual, you click helpful links and you can go see the KWBH YouTube videos. If you want to do that yourself, just go back to YouTube, YouTube videos, and I have here residential purchase agreement part 2, residential purchase agreement part 1. So you guys can always do that. Now, keep in mind, these things are, this was last week. As everything changes, I just want to make sure you're watching the latest video. Okay. So it's important for any agent to really be familiar with the purchase agreement. I would say that's the #1 form to familiarize yourself with. You know the RPA, you know most of real estate. That's everything revolves around the purchase agreement. Okay, now let's put on our listing agent hats now. Now we have listings, okay, and we're going to be receiving offers. All right, now we need to think about how we're negotiating. Okay, so here's the order. The buyer makes an offer on an RPA. So now you guys are now listing agents, okay? So I'm the buyer and I'm giving you an offer. So I'm submitting to you my RPA. You're now representing the seller. So you have to decide, is the seller gonna give a regular seller counteroffer, or are they gonna give a seller multiple counteroffer? So the difference between that is a seller counteroffer can be accepted. So if you give me a regular counteroffer, my buyer accepts the terms of your counteroffer. If you give me a multiple counteroffer and my buyer accepts the terms on the multiple counteroffer, we don't have a deal yet until your seller countersigns it. So the seller always has the last say on a multiple counteroffer. In order,
A new document, though, they're just signing that exists.
they're signing the existing document, but the seller gets the final signature. Now, you can't technically give me a multiple counteroffer unless there are multiple offers. Okay. Again,
But do you have to do it if you?
you don't. So you could have 3 offers that you have right now that you're talking to your seller. What should we do? We have 3 offers. You could go back to the highest offer person and say, look, I have 3 offers. My seller really likes you. If you're agreeable to these certain terms, we will send you a regular counteroffer and not a multiple. And not play any games. Like if you want it, we want you. Everything, if you agree to these final terms, we'll go straight with you and not counter anyone else.
Can you like individually counter the 3 different people with just regular counters?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
I was like, yeah.
You can't sell the same property more than one.
Yeah.
And that could
Sure, at least.
happen, right? If you send 2 regular counteroffers out, you could sell the property twice.
Oh, right, because they both could, yeah.
They both could accept, and then you're in trouble.
Okay.
For sure. For sure.
So you can send out one and then tell the other people you've signed with someone else. I just like,
a seller can do anything they, oh my God, thank you. So, a seller can always do anything they want. That's really the bottom line. A seller can do whatever they want. So when you go on the MLS and you see a listing that says offers due Monday 5 p.m. If the seller decides to accept an offer before Monday at 5 p.m., they can. Just because the MLS says that. So if I have a really interested buyer in a property and I see it says on the MLS offers not due till 5 p.m. Monday, I'm going to call the listing agent and say, I see your MLS that it says offers, that you're reviewing offers Monday at 5 p.m. Is there any chance that your seller would consider an offer before that? If it was way over asking. I've gotten a property like, And then the response might be, well, what is way over asking? Okay, and then there might be negotiation before Monday. So my own daughter, I got a property for her in Beverlywood. There was an agent listed the property. It said, first open house Sunday. This was on Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday. First open house Sunday. No showings before Sunday. And I called the agent and I said, I'm looking for my daughter. This matches all her criteria. She's willing to pay way over asking. He said, what, way over asking? I got on the phone with my daughter, talked. And I said this, and he said, let's show it. And we locked it up. We got it.
Nice.
So, right, but just what I'm saying is a seller can do whatever a seller wants to do. All right, so that's negotiation strategy. Okay, so here's the flow.
You can negotiate on the phone, door, like verbally.
Verbal, I don't like verbal negotiation because it's not binding. There's a lot of different cultures out there. They all have different methods of negotiation. There's some cultures that will give lowball offers, right? But they'll pay the most. Okay. Some, everyone negotiates differently. So I have buyers that if they were sellers and they were receiving a lowball offer, they would scoff and say, I'm not responding to that. But then I would say to them, well, what if you were the one putting in the offer? You would come in with a lowball, right? They'd be like, yeah, I would, I guess. So there are sometimes you'll get 10 offers and the person that offered the lowest is the one that'll pay the most.
Yeah.
But you just never know. You have to counter everybody. But here's the flow. All right, so you guys are the listing agents now and I'm the buyer. So I'm writing my RPA goes to you. You're gonna decide, are you gonna be seller counter one or regular seller multiple counter one? So purchase agreement, seller counter one, buyer counter one, seller counter two, buyer counter two, and we can go back and forth just like that, but that's the flow. Okay, negotiation strategy.
Does any of that change, like your documents change for like a multifamily or?
No.
Okay.
The counter offers are gonna be the same for everything. These counter offers are gonna be exactly the same for single family, condo, multifamily, maybe even commercial. I'm not sure if I think even commercial, right? So if you go to the next page, there's a list of all the counters there. Buyer counter, seller counter, yeah. Those counters are used for everything. Now, all right, let's talk about strategy. If you list a property for a low price, you're probably gonna get a bunch of offers, right? What'll usually happen is you're gonna get someone who comes in at ask. They'll give you the asking price. Then you're gonna have the lowball people. And then you might have someone or one or two people that really set themselves apart and they come above the ask. Now what? How do you counter everyone? You could counter everyone highest and best. I don't like to use the word highest and final. You can, if you guys, if you're in a hurry to get a deal and you just want to cut out the nonsense back and forth, you can put highest and final. To me, highest and final really, if I'm the only person, I'm not competing with anyone else, the word final doesn't really mean much to me. If I'm the only person in the game. I don't like to use the word final though. I'll give you highest and best. So if you have, let's say, a bunch of offers on a property, you might say your seller is going to say, what do I do? What do I do? You're going to have to advise your seller now, right? Because this is now your territory. You're the agent. They're saying, now what? What do we do? We have all these offers. So you might suggest that the people who are lowball, give them a really high number. Just give them a really high number and see what happens. Because they're lowball.
Strategy.
Right? The people who came in the highest, give them highest and best. Right? Because you don't know, those people who are willing to pay the highest to begin with might even go higher. Right? And then the people who are at asking, you can give them a number or do highest and best. Right? So there's no risk to losing your lowballs to giving them a high number. They might agree or even go higher. You never know. And then you can go back to the other people. You have a bidding war, right? And we love that. Okay, so what are common terms that we're gonna put on our counter offer? So usually it's gonna be purchase price to be buyer's highest and best. Deposit to be 3% of purchase price. So if someone writes an offer for $1 million and they have 20% down with an 80% loan, those percentages will automatically adjust if the price changes. So if someone is putting $1 million offer, 200 down, 800,000 loan, if the price ends up at 1-1, they're gonna have to put 220 down and borrow 880. The percentages won't fluctuate. The deposit doesn't fluctuate. So someone writes $1 million offer and they put 30,000 deposit, 3%, and it ends up at 1.1, deposit is still only 30,000 unless it was countered. So that has to be countered if you want to up your deposit amount. I like to have 3% as a listing agent because if the buyer defaults, my liquidated damages say that the seller is entitled to the deposit actually paid, not to exceed 3%. So I want to make sure there's a full 3%.
Unless they don't initial that.
If they don't want to initial, then the buyer could be liable for more than 3%. So that protects the buyer. Liquidated damages and arbitration are a part of this agreement. Now, what happens is when I write an offer to you and you receive my offer, you see if those two paragraphs are initialed, liquidated damages and arbitration, right? Your seller should technically be initialing every single page and maybe those two paragraphs, and then signing acceptance subject to the attached seller counter offer 1. So me as the buyer's agent, you should be returning to me a fully executed offer with the checkbox subject to counter offer 1. Okay, so I automatically see as the buyer if you initial those two paragraphs as the seller. I know right away. A lot of times you're not going to give me a full executed offer. You're only going to give me a single page counter offer. So I don't know if the seller initialed those two paragraphs. So if you're the listing agent and you're responding to say 3 or 4 offers, you're not going to have your seller sign a full offer for all 3 or 4 people. You're just not. It's too much paperwork. It's crazy. So when you return the counter offer to me as the buyer, you're going to put there liquidated damages and arbitration are part of this agreement. So I know as the buyer that you guys are initialing them. You accepted to initial them. Now, you're the listing agent. Who do you want to use for escrow? Don't you want to use an escrow company that's not gonna mess up your escrow and get everyone upset? Don't you want to close on time?
Yes.
So pick and fit us. Kayla will close on time, right? She'll make sure things get done. Usually a listing agent that insists on their own escrow company is because they know they're gonna do a good job and close on time, usually. Title, to be clear, mark title, Jerry Ferris. You can also, choose Brandon Miller from Fidelity or Lauren Goldman with First American. I think it's important if you're the listing agent to right up front say who your escrow and title company are going to be, so there's no argument after there's an acceptance. A lot of times buyers will put on their offer seller's choice, right? There could still be an argument, right? Because all of a sudden they're going to see an estimated statement from escrow, or they're going to, how much does escrow charge? They charge, $1 million per 1,000, and there could be a fight. So I like to just settle it up right away up front. This is the escrow. This is the title. It eliminates any issues after acceptance. What happens? Okay, so this is something that's going to change in December on a new December form. So what happens if let's say you have a listing and you put in your listing offers due by Monday, right? Offers that came in to you 5 days early, 6 days early, 7 days early, they're all expired then. So now what? You're countering an expired offer, right? So here's a term that you might put on your counteroffer. Buyer's counteroffer expiration is hereby extended through receipt of this counteroffer. So it extends their expiration date until the time they received the seller's counter. There is a new form coming out in December that is called it has to do with expiration, accepting something past the expiration date. And it basically just makes sure that they're, so here's the situation. I write an offer to you and it expired, and now you accept it. Am I still bound to buy it? Because my offer expired. Right? I wrote an offer to you. 5 days later, your seller accepts. Am I bound to still buy it? Because my offer expired on day 3. Oh, you're accepting my expired offer.
It's okay?
Well, can you accept my expired offer? You can accept it, but I still have to say yes. Now I get the turn to say yes. You're accepting my expired offer. My offer expired.
Do you have to change anything about it if it's?
So there's a new form. It's
Yeah.
called, I think, acceptance of expired offer or something like that, and it just needs an additional signature. So it's a form we never had in real estate before, and now it's gonna happen in December.
Right now, we don't have that.
Right now, no. So
And if they,
if you accepted my 5-day-old offer, now there would be a phone call between us saying, you still want here is the accepted offer. If I, as the buyer, now put my deposit into escrow, I basically ratified the contract. That means, yes, I'm proceeding because I put my money into escrow.
You don't have to, you can just.
Yeah, I can ignore it. I can ignore it.
and if a buyer doesn't respond.
Yeah.
It's okay.
All right, so what are other terms that we would put in the counter? So you might want to shorten contingency time, right? So all buyer contingencies to be X amount of days. Put a number in there. Property is being sold as is, where is, with no warranties expressed or implied, buyer to rely on their own investigations. There are some sellers that will insist that you have some kind of as is clause. It really doesn't matter. Because the buyer will have a contingency period. They will do some inspections. And they don't have to do the deal, right? So after the buyer does inspections, they might have a request. And then it's up to the buyer and seller to work it out to get the buyer to continue to do the deal, right? So, but you can absolutely put this in there. If something is not permitted, here's a good chance to disclose that. Guest house is not with permits or something, you know. Here, don't forget, if something's excluded, now's your chance. Chandelier and dining room is excluded. Put here anything the seller is keeping. So you must do this if there's something excluded. It has to be on the offer or the counter offer. Otherwise, it's coming with the property. You can also ask that your buyer be qualified by your mortgage lender. You don't know who their lender is. You want to make sure you're not wasting time with that person. They can call Ron or Ramin at Rocket Mortgage, and they will for free. Just talk to their lender. You can have their lender call our lender, and they can just have a conversation. Did you check their credit? You know, what loan program are you putting them on? They're happy to do that for us.
JJ.
Yeah.
The guest houses and ADUs, to see if they're permitted or not, the seller have to disclose it, or is it on buyer to do their own due diligence?
It's always up to the buyer to do due diligence, but if the seller knows something's not permitted, it's a good chance for them to just disclose it. If the deal's gonna blow up, let it blow up right now. And not only that, I don't want this to affect the price after inspections, right? So if they know right now that the guest house doesn't have permits, they shouldn't be coming back after inspections and saying we want a discount because the guest house isn't permitted. So this removes the chance of them, hopefully removes the chance of them asking for a discount for a non-permitted area because I'm telling them up front. So now if they get this counter offer, they should lower if it's so important to them, they should be lowering their price on their next counter offer.
Okay. But how about with the appraisal?
The appraisal protects the lender. So the lender is the one that orders the appraisal. And the lender is doing that independently. So the appraisal really has nothing to do with the buyer at all.
Can different appraisers give different prices?
Sure. Every person can give a different price. Usually the appraisal is going to come back at the contract price. The appraiser just has to protect the lender and say, yeah, I think your money is okay, your money's safe on this deal.
Lender will always hire their own appraiser.
Lenders should always hire their,
Yeah, but-
I mean, a bank was always gonna have an appraisal, a private lender may or may not. But the appraisal protects the lender,
And buyers pay for that.
the buyer pays.
Have you had any experience that the appraisal is over them?
So your buyer, yes, it happens, but always tell your buyer not to expect the appraisal to come in higher than the contract price. Your buyer might think are getting a steal, that the property is worth 1.3 and they're buying for $1 million. They're so excited, they think they stole the property. But then the appraisal comes back at $1 million, they're not excited anymore. All they had to do, all the appraiser has to do is justify the price to the lender. That's all they have to do. They're protecting the lender. So in advance, tell your buyer, I know that you think the property's worth 1.3. I'm sure that the appraisal is going to come back at $1 million. Just be aware of that. They don't have to give an accurate appraisal. They only have to justify the value, right, according to the lender, that the lender's saying.
That's what your property tax is based off of.
Property tax based on the sale price,
Oh, okay.
right? So, yeah, so if the property sells for $1 million, your property tax would be approximately 1.25, 12.5 a year.
Does that change if you? No, never mind. I was gonna say it changes if you refinance, but that's something you don't.
Yeah, no, once you own it, that's your law.
Wow.
And even
Right.
when the property gets inherited, it'll keep the old property tax.
Keep the old property
The old property,
For
tax.
my parents.
or whatever the last sale price was?
Whatever your parents or grandparents bought it for, yes. As long as it stays in the family.
Yeah.
And there's a will or a trust, like, I think if there's a trust, there's no problem. You're just gonna have successor trustee, successor trustee, successor trustee. So yeah, it'll maintain the old property.
So,
Prop 13.
Prop 13 has to do with not increasing property tax more than 2% per year.
That'd be property, prop 19.
Prop 19. Prop 19 allows you.
Oh,
Take your
it's
property tax with you to your
Mansion tax.
So this is Prop 60 and Prop 90. If you sell a property, if you bought a property, say for $50,000. Years and years and years ago, 50,000, and you sell it now for $1 million. Your property tax is based on the 50,000. You can, Prop 60 and Prop 90 allow someone 55 or older to take the property they bought for 50,000 and now are selling for $1 million. Buy another property sell that and buy another property for $1 million or less and transfer their property tax based on the $50,000 purchase price.
Oh.
They can keep their old property tax.
Yeah.
Prop 19 is a newer proposition that says
You can't do that.
you can do it and even go higher. You can take your $1 million sale, go into a $2 million purchase. And then the first $1 million is based on the 50,000. And the extra $1 million is now at the new property tax rate.
Oh, that's great.
You're allowed to transfer the whole basis.
So like if my parents bought their house for $560 and they have whatever that property tax is,
So they always take that 560 with them.
that's amazing.
And then on the new balance.
Right.
That's it.
Which is crazy
That means
because
you
the
do the
homes,
same.
Right.
yeah, that means.
So if they take the 560.
Because homes.
what is tax assessors?
Yeah.
But aren't they coming and assessing?
They bought like.
Or is- How does that work?
They go off sale price.
Oh,
But if the assessor's actually coming out to visit your property, they're gonna make some crazy valuation on it.
But isn't that a job where they always go to houses and
No,
how do they come to your home?
it's comps, just comps. Here's when an assessor will come out to your property. I live on one side of the street, my neighbor lives on the other side of the street, and we decide we want to swap houses. Okay, it would benefit both of us to sell each of our homes to each other for $1, right? Because then we're only paying property tax on $1.
So you want them to like assess,
The assessor's gonna come out and give a crazy assessment. He's gonna be pissed.
but wouldn't you want them to like assess the same is basically what you're saying? If you're gonna be transferring it like that,
I've never seen,
government wants everything.
in 2000, so the market tanked in like 2007, 2008, 9, 10. Everyone was applying for price reductions on their property tax back then. And they were granted because the prices actually dropped. So the the county, yeah, the counties were reducing property taxes. But when values started going up, they were reassessing the property. They were going back to the.
That's what I'm saying. So, isn't that the?
But it was based on the sales price, and then they were just saying here, adding the 2% per year property. So I was going back to the old property tax, but they did allow people to reduce their taxes based on the lowering their value. Properties did go down a lot.
So at the end, if I own a house for $1 million this year and
If you buy a property for $1 million, your property tax is 12,500 a year approximately.
after 20 years, that house is worth now 5 million, but I will still.
Still paying on the 12,500 per year, but it's going up 2%.
Okay.
They can.
That's property. All right, so what else are we putting on our counter offer? You may also attach things to the counter offer, such as backup offer addendum or even disclosures. Okay, so now we have something called an addendum.
Anyway.
Addendum is used to add verbiage, addendum into the contract. An amendment is used to change terms. So that makes sense, right? If you're adding terms, it's addendum, and if you're changing things, it's amendment. Yeah. Escrow usually calls their documents amendments because they change previously issued escrow charge. All right, there is a form called withdrawal of offer. Woo. So, let's say your buyer for some, you have offers out on 2 different properties. One of them gets accepted. Okay, you can withdraw your offer on the other property. Also used by a listing agent so as a listing agent, when would you use withdrawal of offer? What if you have a listing and you get one offer? And you write a counter offer, seller counter offer 1. Now a new offer comes into you higher. And you currently have a counter offer out waiting for a decision, right? You are now going to send a withdrawal of offer with your attached multiple counter offer. So remember you sent seller counter 1? So now you're in a hurry going to fill out seller multiple counter 1 with the same terms and withdrawal of offer and send that to the agent that received your counter. Don't call the agent and say, I just got another offer, because they're going to immediately accept your counter.
Oh, Lord.
Right? Don't give them the alert. Don't call them. Email the withdrawal of offer and the new seller multiple counter offer. And then call the agent and say, I just sent you. We got another offer. I just sent you a new counter, multiple counter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I answered it. Okay. Does everyone understand what I just said? Yes. Make sure. Okay. So this, if you give a regular counter offer out and it gets accepted. All right. Good. So I just went into Zip Form Desktop and looked at what all the different counters were. So I searched for the word counter, and these were all the counters again. So there's a buyer counter 1. There's a seller counter 1 and seller multiple counter 1. So notice how the buyer counter, there is no such thing as the buyer multiple counter. Only the seller can multiple counter. Amendment. So an amendment changes something. Amendment of existing agreement terms. So if we have an accepted offer and I'm trying to change something in the agreement, I'm going to use this amendment. If there's also a form called designated electronic delivery address amendment. If I, as the agent, want to change my email address or something, I can use that form. Extension of time amendment is going to be used between the buyer and seller if I am asking for an extension on my general inspection or an extension on my loan. It's the form I'm going to use called extension of time amendment. There's also some FHA thing, a mandatory price. Okay, so that was between a buyer and seller. Yeah, that was between a buyer and seller. So now this is between a broker and a principal. So That means between us and the buyer or us and the seller. Disclosure modifications to buyer rep agreement. This was the old. If you guys had an old buyer rep agreement, that's the form that's. You don't have that? You'll not.
That little section, I don't think, not the broker and principal. We just have regular modifications.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, okay. Okay, sorry. Do you have disclosure modification listing? Do you have any modifications at all?
Yeah, modification of listing.
Yeah.
Buyer
And
represent.
do you have modification of terms?
I don't think so. I think we just, it's multiple of the modification of listing, buyer representation, other agreements between principals.
Probably 6 modifications on this page.
Alright. Oh, no, maybe I handed out some stuff that was printed before, sorry. The reason that the way that I got this was I went into zip forms and I just looked for the word modification. That's it. So these were the results. So I was just showing you like what possibly the results could be. So there's a modification of terms for your buyer rep agreement, and there's a modification of terms for your listing agreement. That's all you need to know. If you guys are changing terms of your buyer rep agreement, what would you change to buyer rep agreement? An extension. So let's say you had it's only good for 3 months, right? So at the end of 3 months, you want to extend it another 3 months, you'd use the modification of terms for buyer rep agreement for an additional 3 months. If you have a listing agreement, let's say you need a price reduction, or you're extending it, this is what you use, modification of terms for listing agreement, to extend your listing or to change the price. All right, here are all the fabulous addendums. So an addendum is when we're adding something. An addendum, these are just it's a giant blank paragraph. It's just an opportunity for you to add anything that you want to a property and to a contract. So you have that giant addendum. Additional signature addendum. So our contracts are for 2 people, right? It has 2 lines, buyer, seller. But if you have a third buyer or a third seller, they don't have to sign every single page of everything. You can use this form called additional signature addendum. And then they can sign on that one paper. And on that paper, you can list every single form just by what it is, like AD-1, AD-2, RPA. You can list out just the abbreviations of every form and have them sign. And it's just like they sign an initial to every page.
What do you use that like I'm living for my parents, if they were selling, I could just do that
Correct.
and then.
If all 3 of you needed to sign,
Yeah,
they would sign everything and then you would sign this one.
I like that.
And it's just as if all 3 of you signed on it. Yeah. Okay, agricultural addendum, we're probably not gonna use here in LA. Animal terms and conditions addendum. There is this, and there's also pet, I think. For leases, all right, so that's an addendum. Assignment of agreement addendum. This is the one that you'll use when your buyer wants to assign the contract to someone else. Or put it in a trust or an LLC. There will be an assignment. Assumed financing, okay. Backup offer addendum. So let's talk real quick about backups. If there is a property that has an accepted offer on it, but the buyer has not yet removed contingency, we want to get our buyer into backup. So if you're involved in a multiple offer, you're one of the 30 people that were bidding on a property and you were not the winning offer. Ask the listing agent, can my buyer be backup offer number 1? Will he be in backup position number 1? That will happen on a backup offer addendum. So either you're going to write an offer and attach a backup offer addendum, or the listing agent will give you a counter offer with a backup offer addendum. Here's a dangerous one. Buyer early occupancy addendum. If you have a buyer that wants to move in early,
No.
we're on a property that exactly on a property that has not closed escrow yet, that's the form. There is a form for everything. There is a form for everything.
I did have
This
something.
is, this is basically beware. check with your attorney.
Is this before, I mean, how could you move into the property with the,
Okay, so let's say we're supposed to close escrow on Friday
right?
and
Today you want,
my buyer has a moving truck with all their stuff on it arriving on Wednesday.
oh,
And I'm calling you, John, the listing agent. I'm saying, John, my buyer's truck is arriving Wednesday. Today. Their truck's coming today. I know we're not closing until Friday, but they don't have a place to put, the truck has to get unloaded.
oh,
And we unloaded to your property.
Oh,
in case,
Friday, not a big deal.
oh, I'm, there's a responsibility, there is too much insurance and things.
Yeah, so here's the issue. There is an insurance issue. So if any of the movers trip and fall on the property, whose responsibility is it? Your seller, right?
Right,
If anything gets stolen out of the property, whose insurance is it? Your seller,
oh, you're selling us,
right? Because it's under their homeowner's insurance. I'm
right,
gonna sue your seller now.
right.
Okay, so it's just a problem. So this covers it. Buyer early occupancy addendum, buyer pre-occupancy storage addendum. I only want to move my stuff into the garage,
No.
not into the house, just into the garage. Okay, here's the form.
Oh, I wish I knew. about it.
Buyer pre-occupancy storage addendum.
But what does this addendum includes? Okay, so
It just says, everyone be aware, there's gonna be insurance and liability issues. We don't recommend it. Check with your attorneys. It's keeping us out of getting sued, basically.
I'm a seller, right?
As buyer and seller, like, I don't want to get involved in a lawsuit. What happens when they let the person move in and then all of a sudden at the last second, the loan can't close? The loan can't fund. Now we're got a problem.
cause all your crap.
Nothing happened. Now the buyer can't get a loan. They're moved into the property. The seller moved, right? We're gonna have problems now. This form's for. Okay, buyers intend to exchange. If you have a buyer doing a 1031, that's the form they would use. New construction. Oh, there's a new construction purchase addendum. We have a regular purchase agreement. We also have a new construction purchase agreement. I don't recommend anyone ever use the new construction purchase agreement. It's too complicated. Use a regular purchase agreement and use a new construction addendum. That's the easy.
Kind of a new construction purchase agreement.
It's crazy. I mean, I can't feel it.
Since
I can't figure it out.
it's already built in an existing.
It has to do with like, it has to do with like the thickness of the insulation.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like,
wow.
you have to know all these things. It's crazy. It's crazy. I don't know. My suggestion is use a regular purchase agreement and use the new construction addendum. Don't use the new construction purchase agreement. You can look at it.
The JJ is code confirmation.
Confirmation addendum. This is when you have a probate,
Okay.
you have a probate and it has to be court confirmation. So then you would use
Just
that.
want to make sure that's what it is.
That's what that is.
Ah,
JJ, for 1031, if the buyer verify the property until 45 days. And then have time for 6
So-
months to purchase and close that property. But if they change their mind, it's another one, is that possible? It's not the leasing method.
So I think this addendum here is just saying that the buyer is gonna cooperate. Cooperate means sign anything they need to sign. That's it. It's not gonna cost them anything. It says, no cost. Just if we require signatures of you to help facilitate our 1031, that you'll cooperate. That's. We can read it later. Okay, delivery of increased deposit, so, and liquidate damages. If you receive an offer or write an offer where your buyer is willing to put 10% into escrow. Instead of 3%, so you're gonna have, and let's say they's right, 3% is part of their deposit, but once they remove contingencies, they'll put an additional 7% deposit. Or an additional 10%. You would include this, with when you make that,
Is that in addition on the RPA, you put increased deposit?
yes.
You gotta do this and this one also both?
Exactly, yes, it protects everybody,
Mm,
yes.
okay.
Family move-in disclosure and addendum, I have no idea what that one is.
Family move. That's if you have two wives or something.
I have never looked at that. Family move-in disclosure, that sounds like something I would.
Maybe your children move in before you move in.
That is family movement, we'll look at it. Fire hardening and defensible space advisory, so that's a required disclosure in a fire zone. Key safe lockbox addendum, so if you're doing a lease or a house and you're putting a lockbox on it, you want the owner to give you permission to put the lockbox. If you have a lockbox on a property, that you need the tenant's permission if there's a tenant in the property, right? So that will allow you to get the owner's permission and the tenant's permission. This is a lease rental mold, this is addendum for a lease, manufactured home. Listing addendum. Someone actually called me yesterday about that. Mixed use is something, this is where we're gonna see a lot of this in the future. Mixed use is when you have stores on the bottom and living above, right? There's gonna be a lot of this.
Or is it like a work home type space? No, it's
It's
just,
still a home.
Okay.
This is actually commercial on the bottom and residential on the top.
okay.
Mixed use. This is a very, very important addendum right now. The multiple listing service addendum. This is bundled with your listing agreement. It's bundled with your residential listing agreement. It's not bundled with your lease listing agreement. You will need to add this to your lease listing agreement.
What does he say?
It says that it's giving permission for the seller to advertise that they'll consider concessions. That's where that
Concession.
concessions, this is where it appears. Where it says, will seller consider concessions, yes or no? On the MLS, will the seller consider paying for the buyer's, commission? This is where that appears. It's on the MLSA.
This page here.
It's on the MLSA. Oh, it's not on the one I handed out?
No,
This is brand new. I just did this this morning, so.
what's the multiple?
Just know MLSA, it's included in your listing agreement. But also, this is the one that allows you to extend when your listing will go into the MLS. So if you guys take a listing today, it has to be input into the MLS within 2 business days. Okay, within 2 business days, and then 2 days. So if you take a listing today and it's not ready to go in the MLS, you still have to do some gardening, you still have painting, right? Get your listing to start today. If you want your listing to start today, because if you the start date of your listing, anything can happen. A neighbor can knock on the door. Like if I post date my listing to start next week, a neighbor can knock on the door this weekend and say, hey, I want to write over. And then the seller sells it to them privately on out. I want my listing to start today. Now on the MLSA, it's going to say, it's not going to go into the MLS till it's photo ready. That's what I'm going to put on my MLSA. And that way, when I put it in the MLS in 2 weeks, it says days on market 0. Instead of days on market 14. They'll say days on market 0. We don't want to stale listing. People are going to put your property in the MLS and it'll say 14 days on market. Everyone's gonna be like, whoa, it's been on the market 2 weeks. Okay. Okay, options and upgrades addendum. That would be for new construction. Options and upgrades.
And so what is that?
Spot addendum. If I am leasing a property that has a pool or hot tub, I want to make sure that I have a release of liability from the tenant. On the pool and hot tub, that's something I would add to my lease. Probate agreement, purchase addendum.
But this is only for lease, pool, lease, pool.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, yes.
That would be for a lease.
Yeah.
Red cap and just cause addendum. So when you guys do leases, this is gonna be one of the forms. You have to make sure that you check the box there. There's a checkbox on this rent cap addendum called exempt. Make sure you check that box that says exempt. If you don't check the box, the property could be subject to rent control. And the reason I'm saying that is I had someone call me that they owned a house. And they said they had a house that had a 1-year lease and they wanted to know if it was okay if they gave a notice to the tenant that they will not be renewing the lease, that they had to move out at the end of month 12. I called my landlord attorney, and I said, here's the situation. It's a house, not under rent control, obviously. Is there any chance that the tenant can remain past their lease. And he said to me, is the box checked on the rent cap addendum? That they're exempt. That was his first question to me. Check the rent cap addendum and see if the box is checked.
If you check this box, that means
Make
that
sure you check this box that says exempt from.
exempt from a rent, exempt.
Yeah, you need to make sure that box is checked. So I would say always check the box, even if it is under rent control, make sure you just check the box. I don't know. I don't want you guys to get in trouble with your landlord.
Allows you to tell us, like, if basic, not evict, but tell someone that they can't renew their lease is
It-
with,
It's basically, it says this property is under rent control, and if you check the box, it's saying it's not. You're basically putting the tenant on notice that this property is not on rent control,
oh,
right? If you don't check the box and they move into a regular house, but you didn't check the box, you never told the tenant, you never put them on notice. So they could have an argument saying, yeah, I didn't know that, I'm staying. It's just gonna cause an argument. So I'm just saying, just check the box, they won't have an argument. Residential units purchase addendum, I'm not sure. Seasonal addendum. If you're doing short-term rentals, you probably want to check that one out. Okay, here's the one, security deposit disclosure and addendum. In your leasing, there's a new law that landlords can only collect 1 month security deposit. Unless they're exempt.
Security, what?
1 month security deposit. Don, when you rent your property, you can only get 1 month security deposit from your tenant
Is that a single family home?
for everything. If you're not exempt.
I'm single family.
If you own more than 4 income units,
Ah.
you can only get 1 month security deposit for everything you own.
Oh, okay,
Okay?
that's enough.
If you're exempt, if you only own 1 income property or 2 income properties, but if you maximum 2 properties, not to exceed 4 units,
Not to exceed.
then you are exempt. And you need to include the security deposit disclosure and addendum if you're asking for 2 months security deposit.
Right.
There's no more 3 months security deposit for furnished, by the way. Right, that's gone. It's only 1 month or 2 months. That's it, but you'll want to include the security deposit disclosure. Seller financing addendum will come up in the purchase agreement if the seller is carrying the note, the paper. Seller license to remain in possession, what is that one, guys?
After 30 days.
29 days or less, 29 days or less, right? Here's the seller's intent to exchange. So before we had buyer's intent to exchange, this is the seller's intent to exchange. This is to Sherry, another 1031, seller's intent to exchange, okay? If the property that you're buying has a septic tank or a well, or some kind of monument
Yeah,
or a propane tank, you'll want to include this addendum.
it's in Rolling Hills area.
Yeah, so if you're buying a property that has a septic tank, you want to include this septic tank addendum. A lot of properties in Malibu, even properties in Sherman Oaks in the mountains I've come across have a septic. There is a sewer in front of the house, but the builder didn't tie into it. They have a septic tank.
Oh.
Yeah.
no.
Short sale addendum. We're not really having many short sales right now, but if you were involved in a short sale, you would have that. Co-op. So if you're writing an offer on a condo that is not a condo, it's actually a co-op, you would use this addendum. Substantial remodel or demolition disclosure, I've never used that one, I don't know. Tenant in common purchase addendum, that's interesting. Tenants in common just means that the owners of the property don't have equal shares in the property.
That's substantial, is that for?
And there's no right of survivorship. They could have equal shares, but they have no right of survivorship for tenants in common.
You think that substantial is for if you're removing your apartment into a condo, or like? If you, oh,
I'm not sure, when you would use this, like, why does it really matter? I mean, we can pull it up and look at it, but why would it matter if it's tenants in common? I don't know. We can take a look. Tenant occupied property addendum. So whenever you're buying a property that has tenants in it, that addendum will say whether the property is going to be delivered vacant or with a tenant. If your buyer is buying a duplex where 1 unit will be delivered vacant for them to move in, that's what it'll say on the addendum. It'll say 1 unit to be delivered vacant. A water sub-meter addendum, okay. Wooden balconies, okay, this is a brand new one, the wooden balconies and stairs addendum. There's a new balcony law in California where balconies have to be inspected. I think Governor Newsom just extended this till 2026.
Yeah,
Where apartment buildings, condo buildings, they all have to have their balconies inspected.
why you say wooden? Because it's
Wooden.
from the wood, sometimes made of the wood.
Just to make sure they're not termite infested.
Oh, the right.
But if you're buying a property in a condo, if you're writing an offer on a condo, this is one of the disclosures that have to be given to the buyer. A condo that has walkout balcony.
Okay, yeah.
So that's really it. I mean, I would suggest, I would suggest everyone to install zip forms on their computer, the actual desktop version of zip forms. It's really easy to find. You can see the full length, like I can't get this full length description by CAR. I only get an abbreviated version of it. So I would suggest everyone download the actual software. And if you go into my shared folder, under agent resources, I think I do have a link to it. In the web links, or here, zip form desktop installation, right there. So under, just in my regular agent resources folder, I do have a desktop installation folder. And you can select if you're on a Mac or PC.
Says it from disclosure, no?
It's a zip form. You have it installed on your.
Right, I.
You have it. So, but there's a desktop installation, there's a software for the zip. So I would suggest everyone have this just as backup. In case you don't have internet, you might be going somewhere that they don't have internet. So it allows you to work on your deals. And then if you want to send them, you can connect to internet later. Do it, so. So that's it for today, guys. Not bad. Any questions, anything general before we break? I won't be here tomorrow and Friday because it's a Jewish holiday.
Yeah, no, fine.
I felt like.
Huh?
Not gonna be.
It's a big, yeah.
This time of year is a lot of holidays, but I do work, other times.
Which day is your office?
I'm off the 3-day breaks.
Oh, there's no class tomorrow?
No class tomorrow. That's why I did 2 classes today. You have to do 2 classes on Thursday.
Yeah.
I added one this morning because I won't be tomorrow.
But if you're off, I don't wanna work at all.
Nobody wants to.
JJ's off.
Who's gonna do lots of leasing is what I wanted to.
I wanted
All
to,
right, good, very good.
trying to get the,
Very good. I know that anyone that does that, it's gonna have to, like. there's-
Oh, that's great.
no choice.
I'll be ready.
All right.
Actually,
Thank you. Happy holidays.
while I was driving, I noticed that there signs on the streets just. I saw one last sign. I just took a small announcement.
She's only on the weekend, by the way.
I'm in the front, we wanna hear you.
Okay, so small announcement. Everybody knows Rocket Mortgage here.
Yes.
That's a great deal for our clients. They waive their fee, their escrow fee, right? That's to bring them in if you can. They're doing a first time buyer seminar. They do it every month. There's a nice flyer. Ross and I and one other person on our team have put our picture and Ramin's on it. I encourage you to do the same thing, talk to marketing. I want to self-promote the first time buyer seminar. There's one that's going to be offered, I think it's the 22nd, it's during the day. But in the following months, we're also going to have one during the day and one at night. Yeah,
will those be recorded?
that's kind of a be present twin.
Show up.
But he will throw your picture on it, put your ID, you can put it on your Facebook page, Instagram, wherever. And maybe in your sphere, someone will come. So we're also doing, so I encouraged him to do one in the evening. And then, because he always does it like 1 to 2, it's only about an hour. Flyer even says 2 hours free parking in our building. And he says that there's another lot, which I'm also going to add to the flyer, the address. Also gives you 2 hour free parking. So they have kind of a choice of where to park. And the seminar is only an hour. So if they come a little early and you talk for a little bit, they should still be able to get out for free. And I just encourage you because it's, even if no one comes, you're showing value to your sphere. oh, she's offering this is cool. So even if they don't come, they see that you're making an effort to educate your friends. I encourage you to take advantage of it. It's a simple flyer. It looks just like his, but it has your stuff on the bottom. And maybe you'll get one or two of your friends to come in. I just want to say, please take advantage of it.
Thank you, Stephanie.
JJ?
Got my way doing an advanced to enter for the various units because the housing department is coming through to review building. For whatever reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Huh?